creativity goes beyond a pencil and a paintbrush. Hello, creative people, and welcome to I Am Creative. My name is Hollis Citron, and we are so happy that you have chosen to spend your time with us. So what are we doing here? We are really diving into this word creativity and what it means. In all of the conversations that I have had, nobody has ever defined creativity as drawing or painting. People have defined creativity as your soul's essence, that magic spark, how you show up in the world. What my true mission is to really expand this definition and allow people to be able to see themselves in it. Because when people see themselves in this definition, when they've never been told that they fit inside of it, they stand up straighter. They feel like they have something to offer the world, and basically are happier humans. So these conversations are structured on 3 questions. 1, how do you define creativity? 2, how do you incorporate it into your life? And 3, why do you think that it's important? So let's just dive right in. So my inspiring guest for today is Tammy Cohen. Tammy has been partnering with top-tier corporate executives and entrepreneurs to develop their personal and professional brands for more than 20 years. Today, she understands her role as a connector and sees opportunities for women to thrive and grow exponentially, which is why she founded the Women Beyond the Table, a business network with a soul. Tammy added podcaster by launching the Beyond the Table podcast, leveraging her ability to connect with audiences by sharing her guest stories and wisdom. Oh my gosh, and so much more. Of course, we're going to talk about your book and everything. So, Tammy, welcome to the space.
Hi, Hollis. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Of course. I am so happy that you're here. So before we dive into all the meaty bits, would love to hear a fun fact about you.
Okay, here, are you ready? Because I had to think about it for a second, but
I think so. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. My fun fact is that I love paranormal romance novels.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So paranormal. So if you can maybe explain to people what exactly that means.
Well, it's like love stories amongst, shapeshifters and vampires. And they're all good. They're all really good, nice. They're all misunderstood kind of things, demons, angels, the whole 9 yards. So it's, that's how I relax.
I love it. I love it. So has this been since you're young?
No, when I was younger, for many, many years, I read biographies, historical facts. Like I was more spy novels, like anything like that. But I don't know, like over the last 10 years, I've just been like, I want some romance.
There we go.
I want to have a good time while reading, and I want to have, that's basically it.
I love it. And it's like different. It's like these different kind of characters that aren't just like your regular Joe Schmo.
Yeah. They have supernatural powers, all kinds of things. So it's all make believe. I always liked science fiction as well. So, kind of just went along that path. And romance is romance. It's nice.
Yeah. I know. I love like rom-coms. I'm such like the traditional like rom-com person. I'm like, turn my brain off, just give that to me and it makes me happy. But what you're saying too is kind of like a Marvel comic kind of meets romance.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so funny because text messages to my sons, the book I actually wrote, is as far from paranormal romance as you can get.
It is, but we're gonna so get right into that because it's so powerful in everything, all the messages that you're sharing. So okay, so first official question is, Tammy, how do you define creativity?
That's such a great question, Hollis, because it's so many different things to different people. I mean, usually when you hear creative, you think artsy, you think somebody who can, design something or they're an artist or they're creating something. But I think creativity is anything that anybody does where they bring something to life, whether it's I created a cake. I went out and I don't know, I just thought of something new and I did it today. I planted a plant. I I remember when my first sunflower grew, I felt like I was Mother Nature number two. I think creativity is anything that you put your mind, that you say, I want to do something different. I haven't done this before. And you make the attempt to do it, whether it's meditating for the first time, whether it's reading a new book, whether it's creation, you're learning something new. As long as you're learning, you're creating, and you're opening your mind, and you're rewiring your neural pathways. And that's creation to me.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Yes, that's the whole point of this space. I have never had anybody define creativity in saying that it's all about drawing or painting. Everything that you just said is it's anything. It's anything that you do and you're bringing it to life.
Exactly.
It's I want everybody to understand this, because in you thinking this way, how does it change your life?
Well, one of the things that I realized is that we're designed. I mean, God designed us to be creators. We're all creators. I mean, God's creating all the time also, right? But we have that capacity. So
Yeah.
how did it change my life? When I realized that there isn't anything I can't do. We're all limitless as far as I'm concerned. I really feel that. And it doesn't matter what age you are, right? You want to do something, put one foot in front of the other and go for it. What's going to happen? I don't even think failure is a bad word. I think it's a good word, because you can learn from something. You can take the step and then the next step opens, and you're going to learn along the way. There's no road that's smooth and straight. I mean, everything, when you're creating, you have to go through a bunch of side roads and potholes, and you have to navigate, but you come in and then you come out stronger for it. So I think what's amazing is that we all have the ability to make whatever we want into reality. I believe we are designed that way, and we just have to be open to trying, to doing it, because if you're not open, it's not going to happen so easily. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. Okay, so much to talk about in everything that you do. I didn't even read everything in your bio, so of everything that you do. So could you please take us, I know this is a little open-ended, but take us wherever you want to start on your journey and tell us more about who you are, please.
Wow. So basically, I started my own company years ago. I first, out of school, I wanted to be in video. I worked for a video company. It was when cable just started, so I guess I'm dating myself. And that was a lot of fun. But you know what? At the end of the day, it wasn't steady work, and it was many hours while you were on a project. But I wanted to go back to school at night. So I wound up getting a job in the garment center. I worked with my father because he was an immigrant. He had come here. He was a Holocaust survivor, and he came here and he built a business. And I said I would help. And I always worked in college in his factory. And I said I would continue after I tried my video stuff, which I said was a lot of fun. I went to school at night. I got my MBA, stayed in fashion for a little while, and then I started my own small company because I wanted to help small businesses with traditional marketing. A lot of small business people, they're so busy doing everything, they don't have time to stay on top of things. So that was where I got my foot in the door in marketing. And then basically it just kind of evolved from there. I was working with small clients. I wound up working in the gem and jewelry space, more or less, getting clients there. And I wound up with a much bigger client at one point, and I transitioned to the gem and jewelry space. But it was until the pandemic where everything really kind of changed a lot for me. And I started thinking about myself, and I didn't really like who I was. I wanted to be more accountable. I felt like I wasn't living authentically. I just didn't like where I was at. And I remember thinking, I have my 3 kids, and I wonder what they think of me, and all this stuff. So I started taking the time, because remember, everybody was shut down and I had time. I was traveling all the time for work. And I started learning, started taking a lot of programs and workshops and courses. And it was just so fascinating, the things I was learning. And I started reevaluating myself, and I hired a business coach. I hired a life coach. I was in Mind Valley. I was in Tony Robbins. I was like reading every book. I was, Joe Dispenza. I was just losing my mind in all of this stuff. And I started thinking a lot about it. And I said, wow, like I want to transition myself. I want to transition my business. I want to do things better. I want to communicate better with my kids. So one of the things I first did was I said, oh, okay, you know what? Since I want to transition my business, I wish I knew people I could trust more. I mean, I always was able to form networks, and I was always able to have people want to, collaborate with me, but I didn't have like necessarily a network that I could trust. And I wanted a women's network of people I can go to and say, hey, I need a copywriter. Hey, I need a website developer. Hey, I need this. Do you have somebody you trust? And we can exchange services, and we can like support each other. So that's how Women Beyond the Table started. And it's grown now. It's a global network, and we do a lot of health and wellness and business education. We exchange services, and it's terrific. We started a podcast to interview, to have conversations with interesting women and share their journeys and their stories of how they made it from where they started from to how they got into business or what they're doing. But really the biggest thing that happened to me was I started texting my sons, because in the past I'd always texted them. Every conversation with them via text was like, where are you? What are you doing? What do you want? Where are you? And it was never anything loving, really. It was just kind of like, do this, do that. And they were like, I want money, or I forgot this. Or it was just kind of like commands and reprimands and things.
Yeah.
So I started texting my sons, every morning, and it was just love. It was just like how incredible they are, how much they mean to me, how much I love them, and what I'm learning. I'm learning, this is very inspirational. This quote, what do you think this quote's about? I think it's about this. I learned this, and maybe it'll be of interest to you. And all these texts just sort of, it was Monday through Friday. I wasn't texting on the weekends, but just Monday through Friday. And they responded. They responded back to me with love. And I said, wow, this is something. And over time, I would share, oh, I'm doing this with my kids, with a girlfriend or something. They would be like, you should put that in a book. And that's how text messages to my sons came about, connecting deeply in a world of devices, because I was like, people are on their phones continuously. It's not like it's a part-time thing. Grown-ups, everybody. So right. How do you reach somebody? They're looking at their phone. They don't want to talk to you. They don't want to have a conversation. So that's how text messages to my sons came about. And that, to me, is probably the icing on everything in my life at this point.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So much in all of that. Thank you so much for sharing all that. So from what I heard was in 2020 is when you stopped and you really started to do all of this mindset work and really look in. And if you could please share, how old are your boys with everybody
now?
Yeah.
They're 30, 28, and 23.
Yeah. So when you started this, they were 3 years younger than that. So everybody.
Yes. When I started texting positivity, they were 3 years younger before that.
So everybody can do the math on that. So, okay. So here you started really, so prior to 2020, was it just kind of rush, doing and not really looking inward?
Exactly. Everything was rush. I was traveling. I wasn't home that much. Yeah. I mean, and sometimes I wouldn't even remember to be in touch because I was busy.
Right. Yeah. It's what we do. Do. We get caught up in our worlds, and then all of a sudden we stopped, and then we got to really learn more about ourselves for the people who were open to it. And
exactly.
I kind of saw that time, and thank God, I'm sorry for anybody who suffered loss and all of that during that time, but it really was a big eye-opening time. I saw it as to kind of take a breather and be together. And this whole text messages to my sons, this parent, like the creativity in parenting, I think is a huge there, a lot of times we don't stop to really think of that as a creative act. And there's so much problem solving. There's so much about communication and relationship building and using our imaginations and through all stages and ages. And here with your boys being older, I just think it's really what you did was it's this awareness of where we are now and the fact that people use their phones, and you're not telling them to put down their phone, which can be pushback on that.
Oh yeah.
You're telling them, you're communicating in a loving way and starting something up to then have communication verbally.
100%. I mean, what's really interesting to me is, they respond. They respond with love you. They'll send me hearts emojis, or they'll say, that was a good message. Friday nights, we'll have dinner together. We try to have dinner every Friday night in the house for a Sabbath dinner. And it's really interesting because they'll talk about one of the messages. They'll be like, Mom, your messages are really long. Because you know how it is with texting, like the kids, usually it's like one word, like yeah, no, or they'll be like some kind of acronym. And I'm just like, well, acronym mean? I don't even know what they mean. But it's so funny, and they'll be like, "That was long," but they're cool. They'll go, "But you know what?" I'm like, "What?" They go, "They're very well written." I'm like, thank you. Makes me laugh. But listen, with the books, with text message to my sons, I wanted to give them something during the day, and whether it's the morning or the late morning, where somebody is sending you a message and that they care. They care enough to reach out to you. They care enough to tell you you're incredible. They care enough to share something that's meaningful. So you know what? Even if your day's not great, you're kind of bulletproof because there's somebody who's rooting for you all the way. Not telling you what you need to do, not telling you why didn't you do that, not telling you where you need to be. It's just positivity. And I feel that in this world today, if everybody spent some time just being really positive with their loved ones, with their kids, with their community, with their friends, and consistently, we wouldn't have a lot of the craziness and the madness that's going on right now. I mean, imagine like if all you hear in your community, in your home, in your education, and from your government is hate, excitement, and violence, you're going to be crazy. So at the end of the day, I realized like if I could do this one thing and people could read the book, say, look at it as a guide, text message to my sons, it's a guide. Just write a positive message every day and keep sharing it. Your kids are going to do it. It's going to become a thing and will spread more light. I'm hoping. I want people to spread light. I want them to spread goodness because that's the only way. It's the only way to go forward.
It is the only way to go forward. And the word that keeps popping into my head is connection.
Mm-hmm.
It's creating connection. If people don't know if you do not connect with people, if you do not connect with places, then you just have these preconceived ideas, maybe of who somebody is or what something is or a place or anything like that. But here, by establishing these connections, you're building relationships. And to me, It's also so much about listening. It's like listening to one another and actually listening.
That art was lost. That art was lost. And, it's really fascinating to me because people, they like, I don't have 2 minutes or I don't have 5 minutes. You're not so busy that you don't have 5 minutes. Like, I don't know, 24 hours in a day. You don't have 5 minutes to just do something that's uplifting.
Say that all the time. It's so funny. If you're doing it right, you should have lots of time because you're like time blocking, you're delegating, you're prioritizing, you're doing all these things. So you have everybody, like you have 5 minutes in a day to just kind of to meditate, spread positivity or whatever it is. It's so true. There's so many excuses.
Yeah, people make excuses, but and what's interesting is I added to the book at the end of every chapter, there's blank lines and it's like your turn. Practice a message. Just practice it. Like You don't have to write. It's not, you don't have to worry about it. Nobody's going to correct and look at it and say, oh my God, that wasn't well written. It doesn't matter. People like to have somebody say to them, good morning, you're fantastic. And oh, it's a beautiful day. I wish you a beautiful day. I wish you happiness. I wish you joy. When I get those kind of messages, I'm like happy. I'm like, wow, that's so nice. Thank you. Then you put a little smile on your face. You go outside, your energy is different, completely different than walking outside being miserable.
It's completely different.
And you know what? To me, I look at it like these messages are counterbalance to the messages from social media that kids are getting nonstop.
Yeah.
This crazy social media messaging that is just destructive. I mean, what it's doing to kids, you have to counteract that. I have several friends who started, when I told them I was doing this, they started doing it with their kids. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that every kid was like, oh, I love this, but there was they said to me, wow, I have a different relationship. I feel like with my daughter, I feel like she's more open because I'm sending her nice messages. It's not nagging. It's not giving her a hard time. It's just, I love you. Remember those messages in the lunch boxes when we were little? You got that when you opened your lunchbox, like your mom wrote you, I love you or something. And you felt good. No different. It's just a phone. Phones aren't inherently good or evil. iPad, all that stuff is not, it's just a device.
Right.
It's what you do with it. It's what you use it for. That's what's important. That's the difference.
Yeah, you're making me think about just like, I'll just pick up the phone and my daughter just moved out of the house. And even when she wasn't and she was, going to school or whatever, to high school, I would just text and say, love you, sweets. Have a good day. And she'd just be like, love you too. And like that kind of thing. And with my son actually, he never said, I love you until he was about 15 years old. And the first time he did was actually through a text.
That's beautiful.
I have it screenshotted somewhere because I started crying.
Right.
I was just like, oh my God, he said it. He said it. And it's
like not just them. It's like when they send us back an emoji of our heart, or they say, love you. Like, how do we feel? We feel like, like so good. Right.
It's a conversation. Like it's a complete conversation. So I want to just ask a few more questions about the book, and then I want to find out about more of what you do with, especially about this group where you really support each other, the Women Beyond the Table. But how do you have the chapters laid out within this? Because I know it's not a long book.
No, it's only about 200 pages. So how we laid out the chapters work. Okay, we looked at all the messages, and it was there's a lot of messages. I still message them. I mean, I have enough. Volume 2 is around the corner, but so we looked at all the messages and we thought of what messages apply to what topic. So the book has 10 chapters. So there's like gratitude and mindfulness, leadership and focus, family and love. So all the messages, time and nature. So all the messages that align with those chapter names, titles. That's how it's broken down. And my boys wrote the foreword. And I was shocked that they did, because I wrote the introduction as to like, why did I do this? But I said, oh, I'm doing the book. I'm going to write a book. And I said to them, I'm writing the introduction. And I said, if you guys want to, if you want to, it's our project. I said, it's not just me doing something, like the design of the cover. My oldest son brought somebody who's a great designer, Anna Baginski, and he said, you have to work with her. This is who we need for a designer. So I wanted them to be part of the project.
Love it.
And they really surprised me. They wrote a foreword. And it just is about what it means to them to get these messages. It's really simple. It's not pages and pages. It just wrote how they feel when they get the messages. And that was all I wanted. And that's all that mattered to me, is how do you feel? Is this worthy for you in your life? Do you like it? So text message to my sons is really just not just about, oh, this is for boys' book. It's not, because every message starts with good morning, sunshine, and it ends with how much I love them. I don't write, oh, my sons, it's not about that. It's just, you can use it with anybody. It's a loved one. It's whoever you want to. Grandparents with grandchildren, it doesn't matter. It's that kind of, it's open, but I just wanted, because you know how it is in our society with men, they're supposed to be a little more stoic and not as
Yeah.
gushy as girls are. But for them, it matters. It
Yeah.
matters. It makes a difference in their lives. And I wanted it to be like, okay, I'm glad that you want to share that. Let people know that it does work. It is important.
Yeah. Yeah. So actually, I do have another question about this. How is your relationship prior to this with them?
That's a good question. Wow. You know what? I'll be honest. I was always involved with their lives. I mean, I always tried really hard, but I also was very aware of my own origin story and things in my life, that I repeated from my parents that weren't right. So we always, I always tried to be close to them, but I had my own kind of things in my head too that I had to work on. Okay. My own stuff in the closet kind of thing that I had to work on a lot.
Yeah.
And one of the things in the book that I say to them is, I ask for forgiveness, like, because I know I've done and said things that weren't good for them. And I know I've allowed things to happen that wasn't right. And now I know, like, I can look back on that. But I think what really, I know they always loved me. I always love them because your mother-child relationship. Of course, they love you, you love them. But I think what happened with the book is sharing and admitting where I've done not right things, and that I hope, that they know that I didn't intentionally try to hurt them or do things. That it was me, I took the onus on myself. And I think that just shifted things a lot for us. Whereas before we had the, nice parents, we had the right, but we had a fine relationship, but this like just surface. Edged it. Yeah, it edged it deeper because I was willing to take on responsibility and be accountable to them, which hopefully they will also be accountable to their children. Hopefully they'll be the same way with their children.
Yeah, I love it. So important. It's like getting beyond the surface. It's because, okay, parents, we mess up. Like we do. We're human. We do. Just like you said, we have our own stories. We have our own things. We have our own triggers. We get tired. We don't know what the hell we're doing at times because so many things are coming at you and there's absolutely no manual for any of this.
There's none.
So it's like, yeah, do we screw things up? And I shouldn't have said that. Yeah. But what you're saying, and I really appreciate is, and I've seen it with my own children, is when you're willing to say, look, I don't know what I'm doing at times, or I apologize, or what you're doing here in sending these messages to open up for conversation. That's where the gems are. Like, that's where you can really get to know each other and know that we're imperfect, but we love each other.
Yeah. And they listen, they know they're loved. They always knew that I would give my life for them. But I think becoming more human, like with text message to my sons, I wanted to be, we're human. We're having a human connection.
Yeah.
It's not just about, I'm your mom and I love you. Of course I love you. I'm your mom. You're my kids. Of course you love me. I'm your mom. I wanted it to be where we really are able to push through and just get to the real stuff, what really matters, and be honest and share with each other. And it's not easy. A lot of people always said to me, oh, I would never say that. I would never bring them in. I would never share that because why stress them out? What? And I'm like, you know what? Like, you have to be real. You have to be real. You have to share like something that's tough that you're going through. It's not going to make them think less of you if you're like, I have a hard time getting out of bed, or you're the reason I got out of bed. They understand, like, their kids are smart. They know when something's not right. They know when things are going down. And the worst thing you can do is treat them like they shouldn't know anything. This way, if you share it and you explain it and you try to do it in a way that makes sense, they understand, and they can also identify things better. They can see when things are happening, and they can maybe know how to be more open themselves and not be afraid to discuss something or share it because it's not perfect, or it's not, it shows a weakness in somebody's mind, but it's not a weakness. It's a strength
Yes.
when you can share and you can be open and explain things in the right way.
Thank you for sharing that, because I think that kids can also take things on and think it's their fault.
Exactly.
There can
You
be
know, how
this.
many times when you're a kid, you know, your parents are having a fight, your father came, and it has nothing to do with you, but you don't realize that. You did something because you don't know, and nobody's talking to you, and you walk around with this for many, many years, and you think you think you're not worthy, you think all kinds of things, and you don't know the dynamics. You're just a child. You're trying to interpret it. So that's why I wanted to tell them now that a lot of the stuff that ricocheted onto them is not them. Was not about, they had nothing to do with it. It's not their fault or anything. That was my state of mind and their father's state of mind, you know, and that's where we were at.
Yeah. Yeah. So important. And it seems like this is something that you're very much about connection, this deep
Yes.
connection, which is why I also wanted to kind of go back to this um, with this Women Beyond the Table, because I see this in your book and I see this in these spaces that you create, that it's truly about connection and wanting to help each other.
Yes, you know, that's why I had to have connecting deeply in the world of devices, because it's all about connection. People, uh, from what I understand and what I've been reading, depression comes because there's lack of connection, there's lack of purpose. Okay, and when you know people try to, when psychologists or whatever, you know, when they, or whoever's working with these people, when you give them purpose and you connect them, they feel much better. They don't even need, it's like the medication is just hide symptoms, doesn't get to the root of it.
Right.
So I think people really want to connect with other people and they want to have meaning and they want to have purpose in their lives. So one of the reasons that Women Beyond the Table really got to where it's at now is that it just moved beyond just a place to exchange business services and leverage social capital. It became a place where we create this community of women who don't judge each other, who support each other. It's, you know, you want to discuss an idea, you need some help with something, and we'll help each other. We'll find a way to get the answer for each other. We enjoy each other's company. We want to be together. We have a monthly call, and the women are so excited to see each other. We break out into these little breakout sessions, and everybody gets to schmoozy and talk with each other and network. And you know what? It's about connection. Yeah, that's what people really missed. I think Zoom is a really great thing because it allowed people to talk face to face and on phones and stuff like that. We started going back to in person now, which people seem to really enjoy as well. But it's still because we're human. We're human beings. We need it. We're not AI robots here. You know, we're human, and that's what we thrive on. So that's why I was always like, however you can make a connection, make it. As long as it's a positive one and it's good for you, it's good for your soul. Feel, if it feeds your soul, it's worthwhile.
Hmm.
You have to listen to yourself.
Yes.
And I always tell people, like, don't do what I do. Listen to your soul. If it resonates and your soul's telling you yes, great. If you have your own way of doing something that works with you, do it. Whatever that step is, do it. Whatever makes you happy, do that, and connect how you want to connect. That's what you have to do.
Yeah. Which is actually taking the time to get to know yourself, because
Yeah.
it can seem simple, but if we don't take the time to actually figure out, oh, what do I like? What do I like to do? What is the simplest thing? What do I like to drink? What do I like to watch? But sometimes people are just like, I'll just watch it because you're watching it, or I'll just do that because you're doing it. And it takes quiet time in order to
Listen,
know ourselves.
if you would ask me 4 years ago, like, what do you want? I would have said, I don't know.
Right.
What are you into? You know, I don't know. If somebody asked me, how are you? I was always like, fine, I'm fine. You know, like that was it. That was it. Because kind of conditioned almost, I think, just to be like, fine, good. You know, we wear masks. Everybody has their mask up. And somebody once said to me, in one of in Wouldn't Be on the Table, one of the women said to me is, people wear masks, you don't know how they're feeling underneath that. You have to remember, you don't know, you have to remember that. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that was so deep. Made me really think a lot. And that's why I was with my kids. That's when I started, this whole Wouldn't Be on the Table and text message to my sons was coming about at the same time because I wanted them also. I was like, some days you're not okay. That's all right. Okay. But don't go at it alone. If you're not okay, share you're not okay. Like, we have to support each other.
Be honest.
Yeah,
it's kind of like
support each other.
It's this whole thing of being able, you can't tell everybody immediately. Like, you're not going to tell the stranger on the street, how are you? Oh, well, you want to hear, like, there's a time and place for certain things. But yeah, when you have your community and your people and it's picking and choosing. For me, I should say, it's knowing who I can say something to, where they're either just going to listen, and they can be a sounding board, and they know they can be a sounding board, or I can just be like, just be honest with me. You are an outside person. Just listen and then give me feedback, or whatever it is. Like, that
Right.
they're not going to judge you.
Like a safe space where you can go and like say something, and you're not going to be ridiculed. You're not going to be judged. You're not going to be competed against because, especially with business, if you have an idea and then you have to worry that, can I share this? Somebody gonna, that people have gone through a lot of things and just want some place where you have some trust. And I find even when since text message to my son, since I was doing that with them, I can tell you, I feel like there's more trust between my kids and I. And that's a big thing. Trust is a big thing.
Well, it's everything.
Yeah. It really is.
It's completely everything. I can say that too, beyond, parenting and being an entrepreneur. It's like being in the classroom. Our teacher for 30 years, kids, adults, nobody, they're not going to interact with you if they do not trust you.
Yeah. And they have a sixth sense. Kids have a sixth sense. And, it's funny when you say, like, listen to yourself, but when you're a kid, your inner voice is like, you have an inner voice. And then I feel like as you get older, it's almost like you shut it down, because you're like, oh, am I crazy? Because no, like it's there, and it's trying to help you out. So you should listen to it. It's a good thing to listen to 100%. And you have to trust is leaders, the best leaders, they inspire trust. And one of my chapters in the book, it's all about in text message to my sons, is a whole chapter just on leadership. And what is a leader? Because I want my kids to be leaders.
Yeah.
So
this is a great segue actually into the second question, which is, now, since you know yourself better, how do you incorporate more creativity into your own life?
Oh, wow. That's a really good question. Like, now, how do I do that?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I mean, every day from the minute I wake up, just meditating. I start my day with meditation. I pray. I do that. I look at all of it as creating a new day.
Yeah.
I look at it like every day there's a new opportunity. Completely new day. And it's a new chance. It's a new chance. So when I'll get up in the morning and do my meditation, then I'm like, okay, I'm a lister. I like to list things. Okay. And I'll think about, okay, what is an outcome you'd like to see today? It doesn't have to be a major outcome. It's not like, oh, I'm going to cure this. No, it's one thing, like getting that account to return my call, making that happen, or doing something planning something for them to be on the table, or with text message to my sons, checking this. I have a couple of things I want to do with the book that I didn't even think about. So it's like every day is a new opportunity to make a whole different day happen. And God gives us an opportunity every minute of every day actually to create something, to think about it, to have it, to make that step that's a little different than you might have done before, take a different step so that it's a different path you're now on. And that's what I see every day. So I start off in the morning and I'm like, okay, what do you want to see happen today? And how are you going to make that happen? And that's, to me, it's creation. I do it every day.
I love it. So, and it's really, you're envisioning.
Exactly. Trying to manifest what I'd like to happen. I'm trying to assign motions to having that happen, how it feels when it happens. Yeah. But like I said, I don't get myself caught up in, well, only the big stuff matters. Little things add up. If you do something, create something wonderful, small, and you keep doing it every day, create something new. Over time, all those little creations, they make a difference.
Huge difference. I think
and it's not hard. It's not overwhelming.
Exactly. Such an important point, everybody. That is such a great point to bring up, because this is where people get overwhelmed. Even when we were saying before of what do you like? What do you, and you said, and I've been through this too. It's like, I don't know, but it's the baby steps. Even like you said on your list of doing like these small accomplishments.
Yes.
In order to then build, because once you take these little baby steps, these small accomplishments, then you can be like, oh, that wasn't hard.
But you know what, Hollis? I remember with text messages to my sons when I thought about the book, doing a book. Okay.
Yeah.
If I would have thought about it, I would have been so overwhelmed. So I said, okay, you know what? Let me find an editor. I can manage that. Let me find somebody who could help me. So I found it. Finally, I hooked up with Pen for Hire, and that was how it started. And they gave me, we did bite-sized things, and I'd work on this, and each way along the way, another thing opens up, and I started. And I'm telling everybody out there, when you talk about creativity, I promise you, you can do it. If I can do it, for sure you can do it. That's 100%. I'm telling you, there's no secret sauce. I'm not smarter than you are. I promise. It isn't anything like that. But Henry Ford said, whether you can or whether you can't, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. It's very simple.
It's very simple. It's learning to ask for help. It's learning to make mistakes and understand that mistakes are good. Like you cannot learn what works if you don't know what doesn't work. It's just the way things go. Like we're in this world of perfectionism.
Well, that's social media, and it's a bunch of bull. I mean, it's filtered life, and it's not real. One of the most positive things I did during the pandemic, and a friend of mine had suggested this, I watched when you have, college graduation, when you have the, they invite a celebrity or somebody to give the, what's that speech called? I'm like missing the word. So I watched J.K. Rowling. I watched, like just Denzel Washington. I mean, like all of them had these great, great speeches. But what I noticed was the one thing that was in common was that they all said, Will Ferrell, to not be afraid to fail. I failed over and over and over again. Nothing was overnight. This success is not overnight. Don't be afraid to fail, because you're going to learn and you're going to get better at your craft and you're going to get stronger. And that's what it is. The word failure has a terrible connotation, but it's actually a blessing. Yeah. Keep going. That's the difference. Don't give up. Yeah. Learn, do it better, but don't give up. And that was a theme of I listened to Oprah. I must have listened to 10 of them. Mm-hmm. And they were all phenomenal. And every single one of them spoke about failing. They failed. And it's so funny because we're in a culture that overnight sensation. I mean, you out of nowhere, you're famous, you're viral, you're this, you're that. And it's not true. There's a lot of work that goes in, but don't be afraid of the work. Don't be afraid of the steps of the process. It's okay, but you can do it. I'm 100% believer that anybody can create. We're creators.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's that, the famous Jim Carrey story of he just had he was homeless at one point. He was in his car eating beans out of a can. And he just envisioned that he was going to be
Mhm.
entertaining people. And he wrote himself a check. And he dated it 3 years in the future. And in the memo, it said for acting services. And 3 years later, he got Dumb and Dumber while he was practicing, being on stage and getting, doing well, doing not well, and then having stuff in between. But it takes a while often, and it's true. People do not see the behind the scene things. I
They don't.
remember when I went to in college, one of my teachers was up and coming. She's like, I've been up and coming for 15 years.
Yeah. Mhm.
That label of that. It's just yeah, it's not overnight.
Yeah, it's nothing is like easy. That if it's meaningful, it's not like it's, but the thing is when you have the passion to do something, when you have passion, it's not that it's easy, but it's different kind of, it's yeah, almost like a high. You know, when you're really
Yes.
into something and it's you like 4 hours pass and you're like, I didn't even know the time passed because you were in it. You were so into it. That's why I always said to my kids, do what you love. You know, do it lights you up because if you're gonna have to do it all the time, you might as well be lit up and you might as well be so into it that it's a labor of love. It's not that it's not going to be a labor, it's just going to be a labor of love. And the book took that on for me. Text message to my sons became a labor of love. I say it's a labor of love because it was a lot of work. I mean, writing the messages every day for years and then putting it in a book was a lot of work. But you know what? I was into it. So it's okay. Just find something you're passionate about. It'll be much easier to create, and do what you have to do. But don't worry about it. It's going to work out. You just
Yeah.
have to stick with it.
Yeah.
I know it sounds cliche, but I'm telling you, it's true.
It's true. It's absolutely true. And this is like a completely side thing, but you have a restaurant.
Yeah,
And with this restaurant, that's a whole other beast. Like,
yeah. Oh my God, restaurant business. So my husband and I have a restaurant called 18. It's on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. It's Eighteen. He runs it. I do behind the scenes stuff. But he's the face of the restaurant. And I do my thing. And what's really nice is that he does his thing and I do my thing. And and then we have some time where we can plan to do something together. But basically, everybody's on their journey. And my sons all had to work in the restaurant. They all had to be waiters and busboys.
mm-hmm.
they had to, they always had to like have part-time jobs or while they were in school, and they always had to make money so that they could have what they wanted as well. So it was good for them. And here we are. The restaurant's open over 13 years, which is kind of a big deal in Manhattan, and especially since the pandemic. So we're very fortunate that it's been working and it's there, with all the challenges and everything.
Oh my God, that's huge. It's true.
Yeah,
During COVID, like you guys made it. Wow.
yeah, we're still here. We're still doing it.
That's
Yeah,
that's incredible. So talk about problem solving and using, using your imagination and figuring it out, getting really creative. Like actually tell us about that. Like during that time, how did you bring creativity in from the restaurant during those times?
oh, you mean like during when everybody was shut down in the restaurant? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. So this is very interesting. So the restaurants that were doing takeout and delivery were allowed to stay open. And we had gotten like we heard that the hospitals they were real like especially the kosher eaters at the hospital because our restaurant's kosher. They couldn't eat the pizza. It wasn't kosher. So we started bringing in food and we wanted to get eat like meals because you can't live on pizza and work 15 hours a day in a COVID ward, when it's like you're being overrun. What
Right.
happened was all the nurses, everybody, they loved the food. They just loved it. So my husband said, you know what? We're not just gonna make it kosher, we're gonna just bring for everybody. And what happened was so many people had left the city, but they wanted to help remember it was like the angels, the healthcare angels,
Yeah.
so people started donating money to us to bring food. It helped
Wow.
us a lot. So what happened was my husband he didn't even know, like this is March, April, May, like before I even opened restaurants. It was very scary time. He would put garbage bags over himself with masks. He didn't know what to do. So, and he would deliver himself to all the major hospitals in New York, and he'd go to Queens and Brooklyn too. He'd bring the
Wow.
food, and the nurses would come out, and he said, Tam, like going up there, you felt like the angel of death was at the door. That's how you felt. It was
Right.
crazy. And
Right.
he would go out, and the nurses would come out, and they would come and get the food, and they would take pictures with him. And
Oh.
they were like, Sydney, and they were like, and he was in his garbage bags, with his masks, his 5 masks with the garbage, because he didn't know what to wear. Like, it was like,
Right.
we didn't, you didn't know that much.
Right.
And what happened was, he never was into like, yeah, but back in the day, I mean, for the longest time, he had a BlackBerry. And I was like, don't take any pictures of the BlackBerry. Like, you take pictures of the food. And I go, because it looks disgusting. So he finally got like an iPhone, and he was taking pictures. And then he decided, you know what, he put them on Instagram. And what was amazing is that people were like, bless you for going in your garbage bags and bringing food to the hospitals. So when outdoor dining started in June of 2020, it
Yeah.
was all non-Jews who were supporting our restaurant. They were coming and they were like, we're kosher. And we were shocked. And it was so nice because everybody appreciated whoever was still in the neighborhoods. At the time, people like ran away. They were so nice. And it helped us, stay on, keep going. And then we were, outdoors like everybody else. And that outdoor thing was really nice. I mean, all the restaurants were working together. We had Luke's Lobster next to us, and we had San Mateo on the corner, and we were all trying to help each other and be community minded and stuff, because it was so challenging and figuring out all the rules. Every day the rules and the regulations from the governments were changing. So you never knew if you were doing something right or not, but we all try to help each other with our outdoor structures and this and that. And before you knew it, yeah, it passed, thank God, but it was a very challenging time. But that was how we managed to stay open. And I can tell you, like during that time, I started writing the messages for text messages to my sons in March 2021. So, it just like picked up on all the stuff we learned, during those months and during the hardships and everything that was going on. It just reflected into the messages I was sending. And I think you see like there's a little change up of the messages and the structure of them. And what I'm talking about as time goes on, as the pandemic started moving forward and other things started happening. And of course, this book, the first book, Text Messages, Volume 1, because I call it Volume 1. I don't know if I'll do another one, but right now it's Volume 1. It's through December 2022. So now it's like a year of more messages since then. But it took a while to get the book into and get the messages to a book format, get it published.
Right. But you did it. And going back to what you said, what I so appreciate of what you said about your restaurant and your husband, you guys making the choice to go into the hospitals, and here you were doing it unselfishly. You weren't thinking about branding. You weren't thinking about getting social media attention. It wasn't like he put it on Instagram just to share.
Yeah,
but
he didn't even know what he was doing. So it's true. He's not like one of those. He's not an influencer. Trust me.
But the beauty of that is it's coming from the heart. It's heart centered, and because of all of that, because people trust you, because people, all of that comes along with it, you build a following.
Yeah,
that's such a perfect example.
And it was really like 9 years into being open. It wasn't like we just opened and, we were open for a while. We were always quiet. We don't do marketing and stuff like that. We were always pretty quiet, but this was such an extraordinary situation that was going on. And there was when I think back on it with the pandemic, it was truly like it was surreal. Every part of it was surreal. And I was still, of course, we're still in it in a lot of ways, like psychologically, I think. But yeah, it was definitely, you had to really think outside of the box during the pandemic, more than even the being shut down. I was like, thank God my kids are grown up. I had little kids, Oh my God, I was like bowing down to parents with little kids. They had a homeschool, like the pressure. I was like in awe of parents. I said, wow, these parents are amazing that they're managing this. I didn't have that. My kids were self-sufficient. They were already grown up. I didn't know how parents did it. It was a really trying time, but people thought out of the box and they made it work.
Yeah. Yeah. Whew. So as we're getting to the top of the hour, which is crazy, time always goes by so fast. The third and final question is, why do you think creativity is important?
When you stop creating, you die. That's
That's
all there is
simple.
to it. What's the point?
If that doesn't like say it like so clearly, when you stop creating, you die. And everything we've talked about is just all about creating something from nothing. It's about trusting yourself. It's about making mistakes. It's about trying different things. It's about creating connection. It's about all of this. Ladies and gentlemen, this is all creativity and everybody has it in them. And if you're not doing it, that's when you feel all of those lower feeling emotions.
Yeah, the low frequency, low vibration emotions that can take you over. And you keep attracting more of it because that's all you're putting out. And then you're like in this rut, which is terrible. That's why people get depressed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So everybody keep creating. Oh my gosh. So Tammy, how can people connect with you?
Let's see. Okay. So the best way to connect with me is I'm on LinkedIn under Tammy Cohen. And text messages to my sons is on Instagram and Facebook. So you can always message me. Text messages to my son. That's the best way. And I answer messages all the time. It's no problem. I like to.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for Tammy for hanging out and chatting with me. I'm so grateful. So great to meet you.
Such a pleasure. And thank you so much for having me on, Hollis. And I enjoyed our conversation so much. We think the same way.
We
We're both
do.
into it. Yeah, into creation. It's a beautiful thing.
It's a very beautiful thing. I'm truly inspired. So thank you. I believe these conversations have always been important, but now I think that they are more important than ever. Please like, follow, share, spread the goodness because people really need to hear these messages in order to be able to see themselves in them, in order to be able to hear these people's stories, in order to be able to expand their thinking. It is so important to really understand that creativity is life. And everybody has creativity within them. To find out more about what we offer, go to iamcreativephilly.com and you will see that there are services from publishing, multi-author and solo books, kits, workshops, and retreats to creativity one-on-one coaching. So if you are ready to unleash your voice, break through your blocks, and confidently share your story, I cannot wait to help you birth your ideas into the world.